Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Every Arkansan podcast. I'm Drew Davis, and this week we've got a superstar on the show, Tricia Goyer. 10 kids, all homeschooled. She runs a ministry and she's written 75 books. You do not want to miss her story. Tricia, thank you so much for being here today. Let's just kind of jump into it. You're not originally from Arkansas.
No.
Where are you from?
Well, I grew up in California.
Okay.
Northern California, in a town called Weed.
Okay.
I actually went to, the high school was Weed High.
Awesome.
And I was a cheerleader at Weed High. So there we go. That's my claim to fame.
So many crazy places we could go with just that.
Well, one of the cheers was Weed High is the best high you could get. That was literally what I was a cheerleader, so that was one of our cheers. Yeah, so that's that. And then I was a teen mom, so I was in high school my senior year when I got pregnant. Dedicated my life to God when I was 17, and then I met and married my husband a year later, and awesome Christian guy. And then we moved to Montana after he graduated from college. We lived there for 15 years, and then moved to Arkansas 10 years ago. But I love it. I love Arkansas.
So let's talk about Montana a little bit, because that's kind of where you kind of started to really kind of develop your passion for ministry, so to speak. So talk a little bit about that story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I had 3 kids by the time I was 22. And I went to my first writers conference when I was 22 years old, wanted to be a Christian writer and write Christian novels. And I started doing that. After we moved to Montana, I would write articles. I was working on some book projects. I got an agent, so I felt like I was moving right along. But it was during that time that our pastor approached me about helping to start a crisis pregnancy center. I had an abortion when I was 15, which is something I really regret, and then a baby at 17. So he knew my past. I found a lot of healing from that, and there was no crisis pregnancy center for 100 miles. And so he said, I think this is something we should do. And I did the politically correct thing. I said I'd pray about it, which really I had no intention at all. I was happy. I was homeschooling. I was writing books, getting stuff published. I feel like, as a teen mom, I'm like finally finding success. But when I prayed, I felt God saying, what about you as that young girl who was scared, who didn't know what to do? How can you help other people? And so I helped start that crisis pregnancy center. I worked volunteer basis for a couple years, but really it was the young moms that I just had a heart for. I saw them come in, and they were having their babies and we were giving them baby clothes, but really the mentoring, the encouragement, pointing them to resources, there wasn't anything like that. And so we started a teen mom support group called Teen Mops, which is part of Mops International, Mothers of Preschoolers, and that was in 2002 when we started up in Montana. And that just is where my heart is, just being able to tell a young mom, because I remember being there, like, you can do it. God has good dreams for you. You can be a good mom for your child. Like, don't feel like your life is over. And that's just really my heart for them.
We, coming from the outside world, we assume we kind of understand that. Tell me what life is really like for most of these teen moms that you're working with.
Right. And for me, even though I had my parents that supported me, like I had a car, I was working part-time, so I felt like I had a lot of good things. I just remember even the looks and the stares and the comments from people, just rude comments of people in the grocery store. And so working with teen moms here in Little Rock, they don't have a lot of the same resources. Often they don't have a stable family unit. They don't have a vehicle they can get around. They often have either dropped out of school, aren't going to school. There's just so much stacked against them. There's a lot of generational young teen pregnancies. And so it's something that they're used to seeing, but they don't know how to do it themselves. They don't know where to go to resources or how to be a good mom. And, grandma's saying, give me that baby and I'll take care of it. So really it's teaching them to be a good mom. And so there's just so much stacked against them. We just want to be able to provide them in our center here, or our program here, with all the resources that we can give them, all the education we can get them, and let them know that they can be a good mom, that it doesn't have to be a generational thing. They don't have to have 4 more kids in the next 10 years or whatever. They can go to college. They can get a degree. They could follow their dreams, but we are also providing diapers and clothes and dinner for them because, sometimes they don't have a healthy meal. And so just all these resources that we see they need, we just want to be there and help them.
And so a lot of times what I kind of see is someone falls into sin or messes up or whatever you want to call it. Oops, I'm pregnant. And then that becomes a cross they bear, a scarlet letter, so to speak, for the rest of their life.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about how you embraced it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, for me, I was so embarrassed to be a teen mom, and that's really why I had an abortion at 15. I didn't want anyone to know what I'd been doing. I was the church girl. And I think so many times they do feel that there's the shame and everyone's looking at me and I can't get past this, and often the baby daddy is often another thing, and they're feeling like they're carrying that burden all alone. And for me, what it really was, it was my mom and my grandma's Bible study group that reached out to me, and they made me feel important. They gave me a baby shower, and I think so many times, especially churches will say, oh, we cannot support her because if we're supporting her, we're saying that teen pregnancy is okay. Well, it's like any other thing. There's kids that are drinking on the weekends. There's kids that are cursing. There's kids that are, pickpocketing or whatever. I don't know. But it's no different. We just want to let people, everyone messes up. Everyone does something. And when I really realized, God loves me, even though I'm this young mom, and that he has good plans for me, that's when my life began to change. I began to see that even though I had headed down the wrong path, that God can put me on the right path. And when I just had that hope that God has a good plan for me, then I'm just okay, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to do this and that. But it just is really clinging to that hope that God has good plans for you. So we really do vision boards with the teen moms. What are your dreams? What do you love to do? And so one young mom that I'm thinking of, Katie, she is an amazing artist. And we're you need to put some on canvases and decorate for birthday parties and do different things. And she started doing that. So really seeing what gifts has God put in your heart, and that God has a plan for those. It's not just he put those there. Now that you're a teen mom, you can't do anything with that, but just showing them that God has good plans for them and their kid. We're look at your kid. Don't you realize, don't you see that they can do anything? You want them to be able to do anything? Well, that's how God sees you. He has all this potential for you, so don't give up. And I think that it's just a really big encouragement that they need.
So in looking at this, you really embrace the children, because you now have 10 children.
Yes.
And you have 6 that are between the age of, you said
9 and 16.
I have a 9-year-old and a 17-year-old, and I don't know what I'm going to do most nights when I get home to stay alive. So I can't even imagine. Plus, you homeschool. Plus, you're a writer. So tell me a little bit about you got married, and he had some kids.
Nope.
He didn't have any kids.
I had my son.
You had your son. Okay. And then so y'all had
two
own.
more. Yeah, together.
And then you've adopted quite a few.
Adopted 7.
So tell me a little bit about that journey, so to speak. Was he into this kid thing?
Well, it first came on my mind when our youngest was about 7. I'm we should adopt kids, and I didn't know I didn't want to have any more, but I knew there was a lot of kids out there, so I would mention. He's no. We had 3 kids. We were busy. I was helping at the crisis pregnancy center and writing. He's we do not have time. But as those kids got older, when our youngest was about 14, 15, we were still young. Because we got married. I was 18. He was 23. We're hey, I don't think we're done with this kid thing. And so then he said, are you still interested in adopting? I'm yes. And so we just kind of got the word out there. We looked into adopting from China. That didn't work out. But there's a young mom in our area. She was in her 20s. She was already a single mom, and she was pregnant, and she heard that we were interested in adopting, and she approached us about adopting. So it was God's here you go. Because that does not happen all the time. But once we adopted Alyssa and moved to Arkansas, that's when I first heard about all the needs of kids in foster care. I remember going for the first time and seeing a Project Zero display with all the kids that are open for adoption. I had no idea. I just thought you adopt babies, there's kids in foster care, not that their parents' rights are already terminated. And so we said, I think we can do this. And so we adopted Casey and Bella when they were 2 and 5.
So you went from one.
Then we got 2 more. And so we had 2 out of the house and a teenager still at home. And then after we adopted that, we're well, that's not too bad. Maybe we have more room. And really just the just the need, especially with the teen girls that I saw. Some of them in our support group are from foster care. Some of them age out of foster care and immediately they're looking for love, end up pregnant, they don't have anywhere to go. And just, I was telling my husband over and over, I wish someone would get these girls that are in foster care and get them when they're like 12, 13, 14 before they end up pregnant and all these kids and on the streets and not knowing what to do. And I just felt like I was telling him over and over, like, someone needs to like adopt these girls. And God was like, tap, 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 like, hey, what about you guys? And we adopted a sibling group of 4. So they're 4 girls.
So the next group is 8. We keep doubling everything.
Yeah, exactly. No, we're not doing. We're done. Like 4. Yeah. We doubled 1 to 2 to 4. But they were between the ages of 11 and 15. There's 11 13-year-old twins and a 15-year-old. And that is really the hardest thing I've ever done. Like more than the pregnancy center, more than writing books, teens and drama and all the trauma of their past. It's a challenge. It's a huge challenge. But they have stability. They have a home. They have parents who love them. And so I think it is important. And there's a lot of teens out there that don't have someone to give them encouragement and help them fill out college applications and talk to them about what's right and what's wrong and why that is not a good choice. And not that they always listen. They often don't always listen, but they have someone there that is giving that encouragement. So the 19-year-old is out of the house, but we still have 3 girls and then the 3 little kids still at home. Yeah.
Braver than I am. And then to homeschool to boot. So it's, my wife at one point was homeschooling 3 and pulling her hair out on a regular basis. So I can't even imagine.
It's a challenge. It is a challenge. And a lot of them, they're in a lot of therapies. We have counseling and OT and speech. So really, it does work better homeschooling because I'm taking this appointment and then we're doing some schoolwork. And otherwise, you'd be just pulling them out of school all the time. So I homeschool all my other kids all the way through. So it is just that time of spending time together. And kids grow and are gone before you know it. So I'm like, okay, I can do this we have 8 more years now. I can do this for 8 more years. Like I have the countdown.
You've got the little paper rings in the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Ripping them off every day.
Yeah, exactly.
So early on, you had this passion for writing. And so you found the time, I guess, in between the babies and the Crisis Pregnancy Center and the Teen Mops to write. So tell me a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. So I started mostly with magazine articles and writing for magazines. It was great because I had 3 little kids at home. If I had a parenting question, I can propose to do an article on it, call an expert, get the information, write about it, and get paid. Like, it was the perfect thing. And then I started getting into books. I've written World War II novels, Christian romance books, Amish fiction. I just love writing. And really, for me, that is my time. That even though it's work, it is really a joy for me. So I always tell the young moms, like, find something that you love to do, and if you love to do it and get paid for it, that's a bonus. So that's me. Even though I'm like, okay, I have a book deadline, I need to go to the coffee shop for 2 hours, like, that is my break and that's my escape. And I think it's so important for young moms, whether it's you're volunteering somewhere, pursuing a dream, writing a book, baking cakes on the side. It's so important to feed that. Like, God put that in us for a reason. And it's waking up at 6 o'clock, before I get the kids up and having time to have quiet time and then time to write, or in the afternoon saying, you guys go out, play. I'm going to sit here for 2 hours, or getting a babysitter and going to a coffee shop. It really is. I don't have like a block of time where I could sit down and work on these books, but I think it is important because it feeds me. Like, even though it's work, it feeds me, and it is pursuing the dream. And the same with the Teen Mom support group. When I'm there on Thursday nights, like, sometimes I'm so exhausted as I'm driving there, but being there and loving on those young women and seeing their babies and giving that encouragement, even though it's volunteering, it is something that feeds my soul because it's so important. I can see God's love for them, and God's love for them is flowing through me. So I think there's those things that, even though it seem like extra and I don't have time in my schedule and I cannot fit this in, if it's something that you're passionate about and that you love doing and you feel God using you in that area, just make time to do it. It's important. And it's also important for our kids. Like, I could say, like, God has good plans for you, or the teen moms, like, God has good plans for you. Take those steps and see what he can do. You don't have to wait till your kids are in school or after they're graduated, or you have an empty nest. You can take those things because it's an example for them. My books show up and I'm like, hey, look at this, and this is what I was working on when I was telling you guys to go outside and play or whatever. It shows them that if I can do it, they can do it too.
So throughout all of this journey, you've kind of kept your MOPS program sacred. It's
Yes.
been like, okay, yes, I'm doing this, I'm raising kids, I'm doing this, but I'm going to always come back to this.
Mm-hmm.
And so just let's talk a little bit about what's going on right here in Central Arkansas. It's part of Vine Village, which
Yes.
is part of Mosaic, and Tess can put a link because we've actually sat down with several from
Love
Vine
all
Village.
of them, yeah.
But it's one of those things that is really you've held on to regardless of
Mm-hmm.
whatever craziness you've gotten yourself into in life. Let's talk a little bit about what you've got going on here.
Yeah, so it's twice a month on Thursday nights, and we provide a meal for the young moms. They come in, they get free diapers. We have a store set up so they can get baby clothes, blankets. Sometimes we have cribs there, bassinets, walkers, whatever we have that's donated to us. We set it up in a little store, and they come in. So they first come in and eat a meal, which is always so nice. It's like really a good home cooked meal. It's not like we're throwing hot dogs. Sometimes, once in a while we'll throw out hot dogs, but mostly it's a really good home cooked meal. And we just sit there and talk with them. How's it going? What's going on? Are you still going to school? Have you gone to that, check in to WIC or whatever? We're just checking in on them. And then we have childcare for their kids after they do their shopping. And then we have speakers come in. So we have people from the community, from the Children's Hospital, or someone from DHS or WIC, or pastors or former teen moms, anyone that could come in and give an encouraging talk to them. Mm-hmm. And so that talk is about an hour. We have a devotional time. We all pray together. We all hold hands, ask if they have prayer requests, and gather up and pray for each other. And so we just want them to feel loved and appreciated and cared for. And of course, they're connected with me on Facebook and text messages. So sometimes we're like, hey, this is going on, or my baby's in the hospital. Can you pray? Mm-hmm. So it is that continued connection with them, checking in on them, seeing how they're doing outside of the meetings too.
So your ministry is not just a Mosaic Church thing. It's really about engaging women mm-hmm. that just want to pour into these young women that have had a baby or are about to have a baby or whatever. So what's the best way that someone can kind of get involved? What's that kind of look like for a person?
So they could look on the link, which is, I know you're providing the link to, but anyone from the community. So it could be any church, any organization. They could come down. They could volunteer with us. We're always in need of childcare workers and mentors and people to provide a meal. I love it. There's women that'll just say, hey, what's a night I can bring a meal? And they'll just come down and provide a meal for us. So, and then my email is just Tricia@vineandvillage.org. I would love to get more people in there. And really, the more people loving on those teen moms, I'm all for it. If they just want to come and hang out, talk to them, hold a baby, see how these young moms are doing, that's what we love. It's just people to invest in them and let them know that they're important and that they matter.
And then, same thing if it's a teen mom out there or someone that knows a young woman that's going through this. Mm-hmm. Same thing as far as them getting involved. It's
Absolutely.
Open door.
Yep, open door. And if they just show up, and we have the schedule, they can email me for the schedule, and we could text it out. We always text reminders. That's the best way to contact girls. Mm-hmm. Texting them what a reminder is. But they can just show up. It's not something they have to register for ahead of time. They just show up on those Thursday nights, and we have a little form for them to fill out for us to get their information, but they're just welcome in. They can bring their kids, which is also really great because often they don't have good childcare, and we just are going to have someone to love on their kids while we connect with them.
And this, I'm assuming that it doesn't matter if they're believers or not believers.
Absolutely. Most of them are not.
Yeah.
Most of them, but we share the love of God. Like, this is the difference God has made in my life, and we've never had a girl walk out. They're all very respectful and they're listening. And these are the moms. We find that these are the moms that want to change. They're coming for a reason because they want to be a good mom. And so we've had people from the Children's Hospital, wherever, say that was the best group of girls. They had really great questions because they're making the effort to come. They're making the effort to learn how to be a good mom, to get resources for their kids. So it's a really warm environment. They care for each other. We're loving on them. So people, we would say, if you want to bring a friend the first time or first few times, just so you'll feel comfortable, you're welcome to do that. You bring your mom to come, your aunt to come. We just want you to be able to come and get what you need.
And I think it's also important to mention, Vine Village is all about taking these programs and helping others as well. So if it's a church in Jacksonville or a church in Jonesboro or wherever, they can call you guys up as well. Come see what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely.
And take it
Yeah.
and replicate it back at their church
Absolutely.
with y'all's guidance.
Yeah,
So.
I've had other people come and see what they're doing, and maybe they may not do it exactly like us, but if they get ideas to take back to the school and do a teen mom support group at the school, I show them these are resources we do. This is how you can get donations and ideas. I love encouraging other people because I know everyone can't make it here to Little Rock to come for our support group meeting. I would love to see this replicated all over.
Awesome. So let's just talk a little bit about your writing. So how many books have you written?
I think it's about 75 now. I need to go back and count. It's
75
over 70.
I think I've read that many, but I could never claim to have written that many. So, and then when you're talking about just the genres, you're all over the place.
Yeah.
So what really inspires you for that much variety?
Yeah. Well, I originally wanted to write novels, and so like Christian type romance novels set in Montana. We lived there. And then I went on a vacation to Europe and went to a concentration camp, heard some of the true stories, was able to come back and interview some of the veterans that liberated concentration camps, and that I think I've written about 12 or 13 World War II novels just by interviewing people. And then someone said, do you want to write Amish? And I'm like, I don't know any Amish people. Then I remembered I knew a couple that were formerly Amish. I interviewed them, met some of their family, wrote Amish books. So really it's me going, oh, that sounds fun. That will be fun to write about. And then taking off and researching and really getting myself in that world. And then I get so many parenting questions. And then I go and speak at conferences. And when I'm there, they'll say, oh, do you have a book about this? And like one of my books is Calming Angry Kids, dealing with kids from trauma and how to help them with their anger. And so then I end up writing a book about it. So I have World War II, Amish, here's some parenting books for you, like whatever is going on. Yeah, so it's a wide variety. It's all things that I'm intrigued about, and I love helping people. I love sharing stories. I think that's what inspires me, the true stories. If I could share someone's true experiences in the form of a novel, I just feel like, you're teaching, you're educating, you're talking about life, you're talking about faith in a way that people will be entertained or helped. I'm all over the board because it's things that interest me, and people are like, hey, write about this. And I'm like, okay.
And if people want to check out your books, you've got a personal website as well.
I do.
I don't know what's out on Amazon, what's on...
Yeah, they're on... my book's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I have a book in Target right now. But TriciaGoyer.com, Tricia's Tricia, and then Goyer, Goyer.com, has all the information. And then I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I love sharing photos of my kids and my books and my dog and what I made for dinner. So those are all out there too.
Amazing. Well, Tricia, thank you so much for just taking a few minutes out of your day to share with us your passion about moms and kids and writing and everything in between, from the Amish to World War II. So we really appreciate your time and just sharing with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed Tricia's story. It is amazing to me to see how God has multiplied her time, writing books, raising kids, and still chasing her God-given dream, reaching teenage moms with the love of Jesus and the hope that they can make it too.